This is Season 9, Episode 177, a special Storm Watch edition of the Stevens Transport Roadside Radio Podcast.
Sometimes the important thing is not the number of miles you've driven, but what's going on inside your head while driving. The Stevens Transport Roadside Radio Podcast will stimulate your mind and keep you company while on the road. Join us for education, motivation, and inspiration from wherever you may be in our nation. You'll hear roundtable discussions about important information that's impacting our industry. Plus, you'll learn more about new technology, equipment, driving opportunities, safety, and operations. Get driver success and fitness tips to keep you profitable, safe, healthy, as well as entertaining stories from the road. And don't you know, we've all got a few of those. We might be traveling in different directions, but we're all part of one driver community at the Stevens Transport Roadside Radio Podcast. With your host, trucker Tim Cicciarelli.
Well, hello, friends, and welcome to a very special edition of the Stevens Transport Roadside Radio Podcast. Tim Cicciarelli here, otherwise known as Trucker Tim, and today we're talking about one thing. And the reason we're talking about one thing is because the most important thing is to keep you safe while out there on the road. We all know that 2/3 of the country is about to be affected by a major winter storm. So joining us is our only guest today, Ken Resta, Senior Director of Safety for Stevens Transport on our Stevens Roundtable. It's our Stevens Roundtable, and nothing is more important right now than keeping you, our drivers behind the wheel, safe as this winter storm is taking aim on parts of southern United States. You know, this is where the roads can go from looking pretty fine for a while to a full-blown ice skating rink. We want to avoid that at all possible. So who do we have with us? Someone you can always rely on to keep you safe. Ken Resta, Senior Director of Safety at Stevens Transport. Ken, thanks so much for joining us here at the last minute, but this is very important to get this information out to our drivers as quickly as possible.
It really is, and it's always a pleasure to talk to you, Tim, and appreciate being able to reach the audience. So we're talking today about a severe weather impact across really 2/3 of the entire country.
How many drivers does that affect? I don't need an exact number, but I mean, that is a huge percentage of our drivers with Stevens affected by this storm.
It is. If you think 2/3 of the country, 2/3 of our fleet, right? We're upwards of 500 drivers that are currently in the area of expected impact, right? That storm may not be there as you opened up with, but it's coming. And we want to talk a little bit about preparedness today.
Okay, so our drivers have their routes, they do their trip planning, and this is going to be the biggest part of their trip planning, of course. So the first question I have is, let's start from the very beginning. For those that are heading towards this part of the country, we're talking about more the southeast, and it's moving north, right? It's starting in the south, really out towards where you are in Texas, in that area, in the middle of the country, and moving its way east and north. That's what it looks like to me from the models that we're looking at.
Exactly. So the model that we're looking at here, visuals along with some talking points and some best practices will be pushed out to our driver at some point later on today and throughout the day on Saturday. What we're really seeing here develop is a lot of moisture in the Southwest. That moisture is meeting up with freezing air, really, as you mentioned, West Texas, New Mexico. It's slowly going to move itself tomorrow night after sundown into the Dallas area. Market is expected to see 1/4 to 1/2 inch of ice covered by 2 to 4 inches of snow. For Dallas and North Texas, that is a significant weather event.
We're talking power outages, roads closed, the whole deal.
Widespread down tree limbs, road closures, right? Traffic disruptions, regardless of vehicle type. And again, that storm, as it moves east and north, is going to have a line basically north of I-10, I-20, that's going to be an ice snow mix. The forecast model continues to move up and down slightly, so we don't have it pinpointed exactly. What we can tell you, though, is as this moves north and east through Missouri and Arkansas, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, as it crawls up towards the northeast, you're going to see significant pockets in Maryland, which means DC, Baltimore, Philadelphia, New Jersey, New York City, are all right now in the range to receive 24 inches plus in some areas localized. So this is a huge storm that, its roots are popping up just west of us in Texas here, and we're going to see that spread, south to north and then move across and just consume a third of the entire country.
So that is going to significantly impact the deliveries of the freight. I mean, there's no question about it. And I know that that's our driver's job to get the freight to where it needs to be on time. However, if protocols are not being followed, this can be deadly.
Yeah, and I'll open up with the most important statement I'll make here today, and that is that as a driver, you're the captain of the ship. You decide when you feel that your safety becomes at risk. We would want you to make those decisions early enough through your planning so that you can shut down in an area where there are services. We know that parking is already an issue in the trucking industry and spaces are limited. Every other carrier out there, every other driver out there is going to also be looking for a safe place to park. So we want them to make that decision early, whereas they're not stranded in a rest area or somewhere that services are not available to them. With the size of this storm and the wide impact, we're going to start looking at areas where, again, parking is going to be an issue. Fuel shortages, those fill stations may not be able to get the support they need for the traffic that's inbound. And so we want our drivers to fuel and keep their tanks as full as they can. We spoke briefly about preparedness. Being prepared means keeping, extra blanket on your truck, keeping some non-perishable foods that can sustain you for a short period of time if you run upon an area where services aren't available, right? We want to be able to shelter in place at some point because, again, with the significance of a storm that's building to this degree, the cleanup may take days, especially areas like the Northeast. That Arctic air that comes in behind this storm is going to slow down the clearing process for several days up in the Northeast. So we really want to get ahead of our safe havens, our parking decisions, our planning decisions.
So with these decisions that are being made before the trip begins, or maybe there are those en route right now, of course, that take a few days to get to where they need to get. The driver managers, I'm sure, are going to be there to have their backs.
It is absolutely the case. We've hosted several conference calls internally with our weather task force. That weather task force includes the folks from operations, from planning, from our safety department. Right, we've increased the number of staff members on our safety team this weekend to handle the inbound calls. We want you all to call us if you run into a situation where you need help for a parking location or you need help with your trip planning. Don't wait until you get on a part of the road where you've now had a problem. Let's talk about it in advance and help you find the right place to hunker down while this storm passes.
What is the understanding of our customers with this storm coming through, knowing that it's going to affect the delivery time? I asked that question to take that burden off the shoulders of our drivers, whether they're out there that really want to do a good job, that might push it, because we know that if their wheels aren't turning, they're not earning. And then they might be thinking, okay, I got to keep the wheels turning. But again, we've got to be safe. So circling back to my first question about managing the expectations of our customers waiting for that freight.
Yeah, that's key to the planning here, right? Internally for our operations folks and for our planners, calling ahead to those customers as early as yesterday, attempting to make deliveries early or make pickups early so that we're not stranded at their facility or in a position where we can't get out of their facility due to the changing weather pattern, right? So we're trying to stay ahead of that with early communication. We also, at the same time, recognize, and so do our customers through communication, is that there's going to come a point where we may have delays due to the weather. That driver is going to have to shut down because it's not safe to travel for a period of time. Our commitment to our customers is to keep them up to date with the most accurate communication we can on how long that delay may last.
We don't know the answer to that right now, obviously. We've got to wait for this thing to pass through. And then, like you said, there's going to be some cleanup. And a lot of it depends upon the temperature following this storm, because if it stays really cold, we're dealing with ice for quite a bit of time, I suppose.
The size of the area that we're dealing with, historically, you would see interstates clean up first, U.S. routes, some of the major thoroughfares through a state routes, but when you get back to country routes or main boulevards and streets, those are going to be secondary in the response, right, for each of those counties, each of those states, due to their own manpower. And so we may see places that for several days, if you're, 10 streets deep into an industrial park, you may be waiting a little bit of time for that operation to make it to you with the plows and with the snow removal. That's really the foundation behind this discussion, right? Is prepare for long periods of downtime and don't wait until the last minute, because we don't want to be one of those trucks that's stuck out on the highway with nowhere else to go because things have shut down ahead of us, and now we're waiting to be rescued along with the other folks, right? We want to plan ahead to not be on the road when the extreme conditions do hit us.
All right, so you mentioned later today our drivers can expect a delivery of information. Again, can you remind them of what that is, what they're going to be receiving?
Sure. It's going to come to them in several different forms. First is going to be the traditional workflow through the platform science or the tablet on their vehicle. They'll start to see geofence pop-up alerts through their DriveWise. Our new Pulse app that we have used to deliver training and other tools to our drivers, we'll be using that to share some of the visuals along with a weather statement. And then, of course, the phone calls that they'll be receiving, or we would even encourage call-ins, right? More frequent touch points. As I mentioned, we have overstaffed for the expected volume of calls, both outbound and inbound, to make sure that we are giving them the proper support.
Wonderful. That's great. Stevens Transport, always thinking ahead, always on the cutting edge of technology for whatever it could be, even communicating with our drivers like we're trying to do right now through this podcast. Ken, I want to thank you for your time, but one more thing, if you could leave our drivers with one sentence to resonate with them as they drudge forth through this storm, one thing you'd like to say to them that they can remember.
One thing I would want to add is, now we've gotten to our safe haven. We're in that truck stop, or we're in that place where we're going to shut down, right? Personal injury prevention becomes a concern. Walking across the parking lot, slips, trips, and falls, we talked about back in the summer, is the number one injury, right? Well, ice and snow are perfect conditions for that. So I want to encourage that we walk slow, keep our hands free in case we do slip, that we can help break our fall. Use ice cleats or anti-slip shoes, right? Slip-resistant boots, or just avoid walking across what you see to be an ice patch altogether if possible. Again, we want to keep our drivers safe. And in closing, I'll say, in a final statement there is, your safety is in your control. Make good decisions early and stick to what you believe is the right thing to do.
Ken Resta, Senior Director of Safety at Stevens Transport. I really appreciate you jumping on in the last minute. Ken is talking to us from his home because he wanted to make sure this information got out to our drivers. And so Thank you very much, Ken. Always wonderful to have you on the podcast. And to our drivers, please stay safe out there. And Stevens is just one phone call away.
Yep. We care about you guys out there. We want to support you. Give us the opportunity to help. Thank you, Tim. Always a pleasure.
Okay, that's all we've got for you today because nothing else matters. If you missed any of this information, go back and replay it. And please be safe out there. If you found this podcast because you're searching for a brand new career, please make sure you visit the episode notes. We will have phone numbers and every link possible for you to learn more about Stevens Transport and even schedule a call with one of our recruiters. All the information is in the episode notes. And like we said earlier, please follow or subscribe to this podcast from whichever platform you're enjoying it from and share it with one of your fellow drivers. We sure would appreciate it. And finally, my name is Tim Cicciarelli, otherwise known as Trucker Tim. Thanks for joining me. And until next time, be safe out there. And thanks for listening to the Stevens Transport Roadside Radio Podcast.